If you're the kind of person who wants a UPS that actually lets you keep working when the lights flicker, that won't chew up your desk space, and that feels like a solid investment instead of just a list of numbers, you're probably feeling a little nervous about where to start. I get that hesitation. You've probably read a dozen spec sheets, watched a few unboxing videos, and maybe even seen a handful of glowing 5-star reviews that sound a lot like marketing copy. You want something reliable, easy to live with, and worth the money, not just a gadget that looks impressive on paper. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Tripp Lite SMART3000NET is positioned as a smart tower, UPS for servers, networking gear, and a handful of workstations. In the world of uninterruptible power supplies, the first thing you have to figure out is whether the unit can actually support the load you intend to protect. That means looking beyond the headline 3000VA/2400W rating and asking, will it keep my home lab running for the minutes I need? And does it give me enough control to shut down the right devices in the right order? Let's start with the kind of setup where this model shines. Imagine you have a small server rack in a home office, maybe a couple of NAS drives, a modest 500W server, a router, and a VoIP phone system. All of those pieces need clean power, and they also need to stay on long enough for you to save work or let the server gracefully shut down. The SMART3000NET's 2400W capacity means you can comfortably plug in that whole rack without tripping the limit. In real-world testing, a typical home lab of about 1500W draws roughly 1.5 kilowatts, leaving a comfortable margin for spikes when the server boots or when multiple devices spin up at once. That headroom is where the value really shows up. You're not constantly worrying about, did I overload the UPS? The way you might with a cheaper 800VA unit. Another practical strength is the built-in automatic voltage regulation, AVR. If you live in an area where the grid occasionally dips to 110V or spikes up to 130V, the AVR smooths those fluctuations before they even reach your equipment. The result is less wear on sensitive components and a lower chance of a sudden shutdown that can corrupt data. Because the output is a true sine wave, you won't run into the compatibility headaches that some cheaper, simulated wave UPSs cause with modern power supplies. For anyone running servers or networking gear, that's a real peace of mind. Now, this smart part of the name comes from the 3DB9 communication ports and the bundled Power Alert software. If you're running a Windows-based management station, you can connect the UPS directly to the server or a dedicated monitoring PC. The software lets you set custom shutdown scripts. For example, you can tell it to turn off the NAS first, then the server, then finally the router, giving each device the chance to close files properly. Those two individually controllable outlets on the front panel make that kind of sequencing practical without needing an extra network card. It's a feature that many users overlook until they actually need to orchestrate a clean shutdown during a prolonged outage. What about expandability? The tower design includes a battery expansion slot. So if you ever find yourself needing longer runtimes, say you want to keep a critical surveillance system alive for an hour instead of just 10 minutes, you can add an extra battery pack without buying a whole new UPS. That modularity is a cost saver in the long run, and it's a point that professional IT managers often appreciate because it aligns with a data center mindset of scaling as needs grow. Of course, no product is perfect, and the SMART3000NET has a few trade-offs that matter in everyday use. First, the tower is larger than the typical desktop-style UPS you might see on a home office desk. At about 20 inches tall, it needs a dedicated shelf or a floor space in a closet. If you're tight on square footage, that could be a deal breaker. Second, while the two individually controllable outlets are handy, the remaining 6 are always on when the UPS is running. That means any device plugged into those 6 will stay powered as long as the UPS's battery, even if you only needed 1 or 2 critical pieces to stay alive. In a tightly managed environment, you'd have to be disciplined about what goes where. Another nuance is the reliance on the Power Alert software for detailed monitoring and control. The program runs on Windows, so if you're a Mac OS or Linux purist, you'll need to manage the UPS via the DB9 ports manually or use third-party tools. The software isn't exactly a sleek, modern UI. It's functional, but it can feel a little dated compared to newer cloud-based dashboards. If you prefer a UPS that talks to you through a touchscreen LCD or a web portal without installing anything, you'll need to look elsewhere. Who should consider buying this unit? The sweet spot is anyone with a small